This season, Instacart has your back to school. As in, they've got your back to school lunch favorites like snack packs and fresh fruit. And they've got your back to school supplies like backpacks, binders, and pencils. And they've got your back when your kid casually tells you they have a huge school project due tomorrow. Let's face it, we were all that kid. So first, call your parents to say, I'm sorry. And then download the Instacart app to get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes all school year long. Get a $0 delivery fee for your first 3 orders while supplies last. Minimum $10 per order. Additional terms apply.
We all belong outside. We're drawn to nature. Whether it's the recorded sounds of the ocean we doze off to, or the succulents that adorn our homes, nature makes all of our lives, well, better. Despite all this, we often go about our busy lives removed from it. But the outdoors is closer than we realize. With AllTrails, you can discover trails nearby and explore confidently. With offline maps and on-trail navigation, download the free app today and make the most of your summer with AllTrails.
Hey, everybody, this is Al Sacco with the No Huddle Podcast. So the show you're about to listen to, Brian and I recorded it in real time as the Brandon Aiyuk situation was breaking. And we will start the show off with me being just pissed off about the events of Wednesday, where reports came out that Brandon Aiyuk was going to practice. He didn't end up practicing. Shanahan and Lynch were pissed off. I was pissed off because I'd had enough. I thought it was a mess. Still don't love the way it was handled. So I'm literally just going to task on everybody involved in it. And as we're doing that, the Aiyuk news broke. So it's kind of cool. You're seeing me and Brian go through emotions in real time, being angry to being relieved to still going through in our heads, what the hell's going on? What about Trent Williams? So as you listen to it, you're going to go on a little bit of a ride here. It was a little bit crazy, but it was fun for us. And we wanted to leave it that way because we wanted the listeners to experience it with us like we were in real time recording it. So hope you enjoy it. And congratulations. It's over. Aiyuk signed.
It's time to get in the zone. Time to get in the zone with the 49ers web zone. This is the No Huddle Podcast with Al, Zane, and Brian.
What's up, faithful? Listen to another episode of the 49ers web zone, No Huddle Podcast, a part of the Odyssey Network. I'm Brian Rennick. He's Al Sacco. And Al, it is August 29th. We are less than 2 weeks away from week 1 of the NFL season. We are actually specifically 1 week away from the open of the season. But for the 49ers, Monday Night Football against the New York Jets. And Brandon Aiyuk and Trent Williams are still not signed. And on top of that, the 49ers had press availability yesterday with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, and it did not go very well. I don't think the team looked good. I don't think Brandon Aiyuk looked good. I think the one person who came out a little bit unscathed was Trent Williams, but we'll talk about that. But I know that you're kind of over this situation as much as I am as well. I tried a long time to defend Brandon Aiyuk, and I'm less inclined to do so right now.
You know, I guess you're gonna get surly Al right now, because I'll tell you what, I'm fed up.
Yeah.
I thought yesterday, and listen, they can re-sign Aiyuk as we're recording the show. It doesn't change the shit show that got us here to be. And I thought yesterday was a fucking embarrassment. I thought it was an absolute embarrassment. And here's why. You get up in the morning and you hear Mike Garafolo has a report that the 49ers expect Brandon Aiyuk to be on the field today. What? On the field? Why? Because just like that? Because preseason's kind of over. He's just back now. And then you have Greg Papa, or what the hell's his name? Bob Papa, whatever the hell his name is. Greg Papa. Yeah. On KMBR saying, Garafolo said this report, and we expect Brandon Aiyuk should be on the field. And the Niners are saying, well, he was cleared from his fake fucking back injury that didn't exist. So we expect him to be on the field. Okay, so you cleared him from his fake injury, and now you just expect him to be on the field. So the Niners are obviously putting that out there, right? Mm-hmm. To Garafolo, to maybe to Papa, to whoever. Yeah, we expect him to be on the field right now. And of course he didn't show up. Of course. And then you have the press availability before with Shanahan and Lynch, who are obviously pissed, and I can't blame them. They're not the ones who do the money. I'm sure they want him on the field too. They want to beat the Jets in week 1. And Lynch is obviously annoyed and says, at some point we got to get him on the field. Yeah, absolutely. But now we have yet another offseason with the 49ers, who have a lot of talent, I have an outstanding coaching staff who are still going to be a very good team. Kyle Shanahan is a tremendous head coach. All that stuff is still true. But what also is true is that every single offseason, there's some kind of contract drama because they can't handle their fucking business. And Aiyuk is not clear the blame here at all. Aiyuk has acted like a diva, an absolute diva. He's acted like a child at points this offseason. And I don't know what the numbers are. Maybe they are insulting to him. That's not for me to say. But neither side to me has acted very well, or it has come across very well in this, I should say. And the way that yesterday went to me just pissed me off, even more so when you have Trent Williams, who now we're hearing he might be willing to just sit out into the season. How did you not talk to Trent? You know what Trent's like. You know what his contract situation was. How did you have a conversation with him 2 months ago? Where's your head at? What do you want to do? We don't want this to linger. And everybody in the world, including me, thought he's just sitting out camp. He's going to be back with a couple weeks before the season. That's not the case, people. He wants his money. If he doesn't get his money, he's not going to be on the field. So now you have a team whose window is closing, and you're fucking around. I can't fathom how it's gotten to this point. I can't fathom how it happens every single offseason. And Brandon Aiyuk, who he's not Justin Jefferson. He's not a Jamar Chase. There wasn't this much whatever with Nick Bosa last year because Aiyuk has kind of made it about himself the way he's handled it, whether he's done it intentionally or not. So I just thought the whole last couple of days to me was kind of fucking embarrassing. It really was. And I'm sorry to say that. And I'm sorry if people get mad and are going to say, oh, you're negative, blah, blah. That's the way I feel. I feel like other fans feel the same way. Fans are frustrated. So what does he say in The Wedding Singer? I have a microphone and you don't. So you got to listen to me. Whatever. If you agree with me, great. If you don't, great. But that's where I am right now. I'm not even as a host and someone who covers this, as a fan, I am frustrated as hell. I'm sick of this shit. Doesn't mean I think we're going to have a bad season. Doesn't mean I don't like Kyle. Kyle's one of the best coaches in the league. None of that. I'm just sick of the way that they handle this contract shit over and over and over and over again.
Well, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, and the problem is it hasn't changed. And so this is the story of the 49ers season up to this point, without the regular season having started. But here's the thing, like you look across the league, there's no other teams that are having this issue. There are no other teams that are waiting until almost week one to sign their, the extensions for their star players, right? Like
here and there. Lamb took a while, Chase, but not constantly every single season. Like it seems like it's happening.
Exactly. And Jamar Chase, but here's the thing with Jamar Chase, he plays for the Bengals. Like the Bengals aren't a traditional franchise. They are not the San Francisco 49ers. They are not one of the cornerstone franchises of the NFL. They are not one of the wealthy franchises of the NFL. Every NFL franchise is wealthy, but there are differences in ownerships, and that is a family owned team that has owned that team for ever. And they always had they always seem to have some issues when it comes to long-term extensions, things like that. But here's where I'm frustrated. I am always going to be on the side of a player getting his money. I will always be that. And I've defended Brandon Aiyuk through this process. And I still think Brandon Aiyuk deserves to get paid. Here's what I don't understand. And maybe it's because he doesn't either. I don't know what Brandon Aiyuk wants. I really don't. I have no idea what he wants. Because what we do know is that he is not happy with what the 49ers have offered him. But at the same time, he has torpedoed a trade to the Patriots and a trade to the Browns. And he wouldn't torpedo a trade to the Steelers, but the Steelers aren't willing to give the 49ers what they want in return. And so it's almost as if Brandon Aiyuk said, look, I want my money, but I also want to play for a winning franchise. I don't think the Patriots are that right now, which is wild to say with their history. And I don't think the Browns are that. So now I need you to pay me what those franchises would pay me, which are franchises that have to overpay right now because they're not good. Pay me what they would pay me. And it's like, well, yeah, they're willing to pay you that because they can, because they don't have a star-studded roster. They can pay you, the Patriots, they could pay you $32 million. But obviously it's not the money, because if it was, you wouldn't have nixed that trade. So it's like he's trying to have his cake and eat it too, and he's trying to force himself either to his preferred destination or force the 49ers to pay him something that they're not willing to pay him. And so it's like, you got to choose, man. You got to either stay with the 49ers and take a little bit less money to play with a winning franchise, or you let them. Oh, someone just said, Schefter reporting right now that Brandon Aiyuk is signed. Ian Rappaport.
No shit.
The 49ers are not trading star wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk. He's staying in SF with a massive extension. Aiyuk is getting a front-loaded 4-year deal worth $120 million. There it is.
There it is, as we're recording.
There it is, as we're recording. $120 million. Can I tell you that I tweeted out 2 days ago that the 49ers should just put down a contract for Brandon Aiyuk that's worth 4 years, $120 million with $80 million guaranteed, which would get him to 30 years, $30 million a year in APY, and would also get him to fifth on guaranteed money behind Lamb, Jefferson, Brown, and DJ Moore. DJ Moore got $82.5 million from the Bears. And it looks like 4 years, $120 million. Front loaded is interesting.
Probably before Purdy's going to kick in, essentially, before his big numbers would be set.
Right. So I would imagine that front loaded meaning this year, next year, and maybe even the year after. Because remember, he's under contract on his 5th-year option. So this is a 4-year extension, which I assume means that he's here through the 2029 season? Yeah, 2029 season.
So, all right. So I just absolutely tear into them and the extension gets done. So again,
perfect. That's what they needed. That's what they needed.
And again, it was fucking embarrassing the last 2 days. It is what it is. The whole process again has been to go through this constantly. It's been a pain in the ass. It always happens this way constantly to get to this point. It got there. I'm going to turn the page on it. I said my piece, what I thought. Now let's talk about what this means for the future as we're doing this live. So Brandon Aiyuk is back, $30 million a year. They offered him what initially? 26?
I think I believe the deal at the beginning of the offseason was for 26. Yeah.
Okay. So second season in a row, the Niners go till almost the start of the season and a player essentially bends them over a barrel. Okay. Is that the way that we're going to negotiate with the 49ers? Now Trent Williams is doing the same thing. So it is what it is. Yeah. I don't know. A lot of emotions for me with it right now. Where this is a positive for the team as we look on the football field, Brandon Aiyuk is going into his prime. So when you look at the numbers that he's had in the past, it goes in line with Devontae Smith, with Jalen Waddle, that it was sort of a 1B, 1A maybe type things in terms of production. He doesn't get the targets the St. Brown does or CeeDee Lamb. He was 36 last year in targets. Last 2 seasons, 78 catches, 1,015 yards, 8 touchdowns. Last year, 75 catches, 1,342 yards, which was 7th in the NFL, and 7 touchdowns. They're paying him, I hope, at $30 million a year, like he's going into his prime.
Mike Garafolo, $76 million in guarantees.
76 in guarantees? Okay,
yeah.
So they're paying him going into his prime like he's going to be a number 1 receiver. I would think this is Debo's last year based on that, unless he really does a huge restructure based on what he's owed in 2025. But they're keeping him here to kind of be part of that core like we talked about. It was a fucking shit show to get here, but they're here. So, good. I hope the fans are happy. It's a good thing. Again, it's taken forever to get here. Steve-O says going to need more than 7 TDs. Well, you know what? Let's say this, because again, I just went on a tirade for the first 4 minutes of the show and like knocked everybody. So let me say this too. You know what, Steve-O? You're right. Real talk, Brandon Aiyuk. You played every game in the book. You got your money. You got your $30 million. Okay. Now, what I just said, those stats, now I understand you need the targets, and the Niners do have to feed him a little bit more. But if you're making $30 million a year, look at the other guys that are making $30 million a year. Those are some big numbers, some big production. So we're going to need that out of him, and we'll see. Again, I think he's going into his prime. I think he can do it if given the opportunity. We've been saying that. So we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, and when you talk about the touchdowns, I mean, it's tough because it's not. It is a function of this offense, right? Because once they get into the red zone, they're not throwing it very often. And Brandon Aiyuk is not a traditional red zone target, right? He's not 6'4", where you just throw him jump balls and he gets 10, 11 touchdowns like Mike Evans every year, right? But I think the other thing is, and we've talked about this, I sense an evolution in this offense. And I think for Kyle Shanahan, he has, I hope, recognized that for all of the success that he has had as the 49ers head coach and the 49ers offensive play caller, very successful offenses, largely rooted in a lethal ground attack. And it's gotten him to the Super Bowl. It hasn't gotten him a Super Bowl trophy. And when they released the initial 53-man roster on Tuesday, one of the things that we talked about, one of the biggest surprises, was that they only kept 2 tight ends, right? They kept George Kittle and they kept Jake Tonges. Since then, they have re-signed Eric Saubert, added him to the 53-man because they I don't know the corresponding move for that, because when it was reported, I believe Matt Barrow said through roster gymnastics. I don't know what that means, because they also added back Rocky Sin and they also added back an offensive lineman, and I will get there in a second. But they did that because they put Feliciano and Ambry Thomas on IR, which gave them 2 spots. They were able to add those players. But this is the first year that Kyle Shanahan has not kept 4 tight ends. It's the first time that he hasn't kept 4 tight ends on the 53-man roster. And in years past, those 4 tight ends have been like George Kittle, 2 guys who can block, and then Ross Dwelly, right? Like that was kind of, the nature. And Kittle obviously is a blocker. Saubert is a blocker. Tonges is not. I think we're going to start seeing some more like 11 personnel. I think we're going to see some more throwing. He's got a quarterback now that he can trust. They're paying $30 million a year to one wide receiver. They're paying $26 million a year to another wide receiver, though he's probably not going to be here moving forward. They just drafted 2 wide receivers in this draft. I feel like they're telegraphing a little bit with what their intention is as an offense, is to take a step forward as a more pass-happy offense. Because even with Christian McCaffrey, you can take that step forward because you can use him as a weapon in the passing game as well. So, I think obviously Brandon Aiyuk, his year last year, 2nd team All-Pro, one of the most efficient receiving seasons in history. Right. He had, I believe it was like 17.9. I think it was 17.9 yards per reception. Like that's wild. Right. And so, you look at someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown, right? And you look at their numbers. Brandon Aiyuk had 75 receptions. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 122. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 130 more yards on the season than Brandon Aiyuk did. Again, that just kind of tells you the role that each of them play in the offense. And it goes to show the kind of receiver that Aiyuk can be.
Not to cut you off, but do you just want to put the StreamYard link on Twitter and see if people want to come and talk about this?
Sure.
How much time you got right now? All right, I'm just going to do it. I don't know if anybody's going to do it, but.
This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
Hey, fantasy football owners. The road to winning your fantasy football championship starts now. I'm Matt Harmon from Reception Perception. Join me and James Coe as we take a deep dive into the position that's going to make or break your fantasy roster. Wide receivers. We analyze route running, target share, and all the metrics that matter, giving you the insights you need to draft the best wide receivers. As you prep for your draft, let us give you the coverage you need. Follow and listen to Reception Perception on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
All-star closer Kenley Jansen, we have a question.
What's the best podcast of all time? Baseball isn't boring, baby.
I'm Rob Bradford, and every single day I'm sitting down with the biggest names to show you this great game is the greatest game. It's my podcast. It's my passion. It's a cause I started more than 2 years ago and is now the most prolific national daily baseball pod there is. Another fact, so jump aboard the BIB Express. Follow and listen to Baseball Isn't Boring, presented by Wasabi Hot Cloud Storage on the free Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, all right. I just put our StreamYard link on Twitter. If anybody comes in and talks about it, or if you're listening to the show on YouTube and you want to hop on, go to my Twitter page and literally go to our StreamYard. And as people pop on, I'll let you in one at a time. I don't know if this is going to work. I don't even know if we can do it, but that's what I did. So if fans want to come in and talk about it, that's what we'll do. Sorry, you can go ahead. You can go ahead with your thoughts.
No, I'm just saying, like, I feel like this past season was an indication of what Brandon Aiyuk can do moving forward and entering his prime. I think you're just going to see more and more of that. And I think those numbers, like touchdown numbers, are going to go up as well, just as a product of, building on his success, having a quarterback he has a rapport with. And I think, again, a Kyle Shanahan offense that might look to throw the ball more than we have seen in years past.
Yeah, I definitely think there's going to be a switch with that. And as you move to Purdy, this is somebody that, barring a disaster this year, somebody that they're going to build around the offense around now. I think you will see throwing more. Again, McCaffrey's 28 years old. I don't know if McCaffrey's healthy right now with his calf. So as they progress, as they turn into more of a throwing team, what is this you just put up here now?
This is Brandon Ayuk's agent posted a screenshot of him and Brandon Aiyuk FaceTiming. And it says, "We worked hard for that smile at Brandon Aiyuk." So again, just a happy day for 49ers fans, a happy day for Brandon Aiyuk. And I'm thrilled, absolutely thrilled to stop talking about this.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. Like, dude, it's been a long offseason with this. Like, it's dominated the news. It's all we've been able to talk about. I mean, now we're going to switch to Trent Williams. Yeah. Obviously, that's going to be the next thing here. But maybe they will be more willing to do something with Trent. Now that this is done, maybe they have an idea of what the money is going to be if it is up front, how they can work things, and they can maybe get something done with Trent now. It's Jets week, basically. They had to start preparing for them. You saw, like I said earlier, how pissed off Lynch was, Shanahan. They seemed like they were frustrated. And what's crazy about this too, in terms of like, nobody knew what the hell was going on here. If you looked at all the reports and everything from today, even from the guys who are just really like in the know, Mayoko and all these other guys, they were like, yeah, this looks pretty dire right now. Like, this looks pretty bad. Like, Niners are clearly frustrated. It doesn't, all the good vibes that were a week ago doesn't seem like there is now. And then for, I don't know if Aiyuk came to Jesus with something. I don't know if the Niners upped their offer. I don't know, but we're here. And I'm just, like you said, I'm just glad to get over it. All right. We got somebody who wants to come in. So this is,
real quick. I do want to shout out my guy, Marco Martinez. You and I were talking about Marco earlier, right before we started recording. An hour ago, Marco tweeted out, 49ers fans are going to have a great weekend. Y'all can relax and enjoy the 3-day weekend. Bring out the number 11 jerseys. Make sure they're clean because we got our number 1 wide receiver back. And here we are.
Good for him.
Shout out to Marco. Shout out to Marco and his source. He nailed it.
Hey, this is Sean. Sean, what's up, man? Sean, you're on mute, buddy.
Sorry, gentlemen. Yeah, I mean, my headline says it all, man. I was pouting this whole last week, like I don't want to hear any Niners news, but now here we are. I'm excited. Now we just need to get Trent back in the fold.
Yeah. So where is your head with this? Are you relieved and excited? Are you a little I want to hear what the fans think. Are you still a little annoyed?
I'm over it. I thought I was still going to be annoyed, but I'm over it. Amazing how quick that happens, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if you were listening to the beginning of the show, but I was pretty pissed for the first 4 minutes because I thought yesterday was a joke, the way that it all kind of went down. So to go from that to this, it's pretty cool. So
quite a relief for sure. But now we need Trent back. I mean, he's the most important one, but I got to imagine that management is on board. They got something and it'll be done pretty quick. So
I hope so. Sean, where are you calling from?
Henderson, Nevada, Bay Area native, born and raised in San Leandro, but out in Henderson now.
Cool. Awesome.
Nice.
All right. Well, hey, man, we appreciate the call. We appreciate you coming on the show.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, man. All right. I'm glad Sean called in.
Yeah. Here's and one of the things that I wanted to bring up as we were talking about Aiyuk and Williams, right? The tone that John Lynch talked about Brandon Aiyuk versus the tone that John Lynch talked about Trent Williams was interesting to me, right? Like the Brandon Aiyuk quote that stuck out to me was, at some point you've got to play, right? I mean, it's on the little, I lost the word that I'm looking for. But
it's a big day, Brian. You can lose words.
I know.
It's an exciting day.
But anyway, not anywhere near as, I don't want to say disdain, but that's kind of what it felt like, right? Like it felt like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch yesterday were like, I'm so over this situation with Brandon Aiyuk, which, by the way, right now we've got just on YouTube 11 live viewers. So hey, synergy. Brandon Aiyuk signs. We've got 11 live viewers. I love it. But I still think that as much as we've heard from like Josina Anderson, Trent is willing to let this go into the season. It has always felt like the contentious one was Brandon Aiyuk, and that they would figure out Trent in time. And I still feel that way. I genuinely do. I still feel like they're going to do what they need to do for Trent, and Trent is going to be back. Is it by week 1? I certainly hope so. To be fair, Brandon Aiyuk signed earlier than Nick Bosa did last year, right? So there is that. And maybe we get there with Trent Williams as well. But I saw someone tweet out that the 49ers signed Brandon Aiyuk, that that they get the guy that is kind of the engine that helps this offense run. No, they didn't, because they didn't sign Trent Williams. Trent Williams is the engine that makes this offense run.
Right.
And they definitely need to make sure that he's back.
So that's where the focus goes next, again, is on Trent. So we're recording this on a Thursday. The Niners are playing a week from Monday. I think that Aiyuk is going to be good. Get him into practice. I fully expect him to be ready for week 1. Will he play 100% of the snaps? I don't know, but there's no reason to think that he can't play a majority of the game with about a week and a half to get ready and everything else, assuming his back injury is okay. You think his back injury is okay, Brian? He's probably.
I think that's part of why it took so long, is they didn't know if his back injury was going to be okay.
That crazy
and
back,
now that he's cleared, what I think is so funny about that is they had every opportunity to find Brandon Aiyuk from the moment that he started holding in, right? Because he wasn't practicing. He was holding in, he wasn't practicing. They could find him if they wanted to. And then it became like, now we're practicing. It's not training camp. Now it's the regular season and he's not practicing. And we have to be able to be like, hey, we're going to fine you. And so they had to give an excuse for why they hadn't done it previously. So it was, hey, this phantom back injury, right? This is why we didn't find him before, but now he's cleared. And if he doesn't practice now we're going to start finding him. It was just like a CYA throwaway thing, but it was just funny because it's like, no one believes you. No one believes that he had an injury. No one believes that he wasn't cleared. No one believes you. Just get this contract done and they did.
The act worked.
Kudos.
He got the Niners for the second year in a row. Again, they had a play. I mean, Bosa did it very quietly. Aiyuk did it loudly to the point of annoyance, but he did it loudly. It's all anybody was really talking about. You had CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, these stars were in the same situation. The Dallas Cowboys in a similar situation. All anybody talked about was Brandon Aiyuk. It showed you that the Niners pretty much dominate everything right now. But again, for the second year in a row, you had a player kind of take them to the end and got what they wanted to. So hopefully this stuff gets figured out earlier.
I understand negotiations. I get it. Like I really do. But when you consistently drag them on this long, and then your best final is still is what the player wanted to begin with, like what was the point? What was the point? If this is where you got, what was the point? At what point did you think that you would win this negotiation? That's the one thing that I still is frustrating to me, because I feel like we're going to continue to go through this every year that a player, like next year it's going to be Diamador Lenore, right? Lenore's the next one up to get paid. Are we going to be waiting until 9 days before the 49ers play week 1 before Lenore gets signed? Like
he's a free agent. He's going to be a free agent. So it'll have to be March.
That's a good point. I guess. Yeah. Cause they can't, unless they negotiate an extension during the year with him, which they could, but no, that's a good point.
So, and again, we'll see with Trent, because Trent's got to get done in the next few days too, to be ready for week 1. And if Trent's not there, I'm very nervous about week 1 with that Jets front. But again, we'll make this about Aiyuk right now, since he signs the 4-year, $120 million deal. Now, what does this mean for Deebo Samuel? I think a couple things. I think Deebo Samuel is going to play out of his mind this year, which is great for the 49ers. Reason he's going to do that is he's probably playing for a new contract with the new team next year. There's no way he's coming back at 20 plus. I'd have to look exactly what his cap it is, but it's way over 20 million. Really doesn't look like he is. And again, this isn't for all the people who are like, hey, Deebo's going to be gone. Deebo's been phenomenal for this team. Deebo is a matchup nightmare when you have to game plan against him for other defenses. So we do not want Deebo to go anywhere. But the Niners took a first-round wide receiver in the first round this year in Ricky Pearsall, who looks like he could step in and will eventually take over for Deebo Samuel. So that's where it goes. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year. The Niners could feed Deebo like a running back last year of their contract, where they just find all different ways to use him, constantly get him the ball. I think he's going to have a huge, huge season this year, which again is good for the team. And then next year you'll get into the Pearsall, Aiyuk, Kittle will still be there. Maybe Jacob Cowing steps up, and like you said, Brian, maybe more into a pass first type of offense with Brock Purdy. But look, it's been frustrating.
I would say Deebo's cap hit is $24.2 million next year.
That's not happening.
It's a dead cap hit of 15.1 if they trade or cut him. So they'd be saving $9 million on the cap just straight up cutting him if they needed to. So again, the likelihood of him being a 49er past this season is probably pretty low.
Yeah, unless there's some kind of wild restructure or something like that. But
here's an interesting tidbit from Diana Rossini, who also plugged in the NFL. She tweeted out 5 minutes ago, this was not a new deal for Brandon Aiyuk. Nothing changed the last few weeks in terms of numbers. Let's hope the ramp up period goes well. So that's interesting to me. So this deal that he just accepted seems like it's been on the table for a few weeks, according to Diana Rossini, which means that these last few weeks have been still him trying to, I don't know, negotiate with the Steelers I don't know. That's interesting to me that nothing has changed. He just finally accepted it. And maybe shit just got real yesterday. Maybe. I mean, again, I've never seen, at least I don't think, I've never seen John Lynch that pissed off or seen that pissed off. John Lynch is really good even when he's angry to hide it. And, he's a politician, and I mean that in a good way. He's very good at being the face of the franchise and saying the right things and answering people respectfully and things like that. He looked straight pissed yesterday. He looked fed up. So maybe it did get to a point where it was just like, listen, because again, what I said earlier in the show wasn't yesterday was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. So maybe that's where they were. This is embarrassing, Brandon. Make a decision or get the hell out of here.
maybe that's where they were. And if they did have that contract on the table, unless it was a guarantee thing or whatever, what the hell was the holdup?
And so again, Rossini, Schefter also tweeted, in the end, Brandon Aiyuk accepted the same deal that has been on the table since August 10th. It's August 29th right now, so 19 days. Per league sources, his hold-in did not alter any part of his new 4-year, $120 million extension. He took the same deal that had been there for the past 3 weeks, holding over. So
I will say this to the 49ers, because we didn't know what the Niners were offering, and we did knock them and everything else. But it's everybody's fault. If that was the deal that they offered him, I can't blame him on it. More than fair.
Yep.
More than fair. We talked about it. His numbers are in line with Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle. He's getting paid like Amon-Ra St. Brown in numbers wise. More than fair for that. So, yeah, kudos to the. I mean, that's you can't knock the Niners there. I mean, that's shelling out money. Would you say $76 million guaranteed?
$76 million guaranteed, front loaded, which likely means a pretty decent signing bonus, which again is something that Jed York had to sign off on, because that money comes to Brandon Aiyuk tomorrow. I can't imagine. I love to be on my phone when I know that the paycheck is going to hit at like midnight, right? For the next month. I'm like, all right, I like watching that. I can't imagine what it's like to be on that phone and be like, boom, $76 million. Just
could you imagine?
Out. Oh my God.
Unbelievable. It must be nice to be born with good genetics. I wouldn't
know. I wouldn't know.
Here's another thing that's interesting to me now is I'm kind of working through everything in my head. So the Cowboys are in a weird spot because they had to pay CeeDee Lamb, which they did. If they want Dak back, they'll have to pay Dak, and Micah Parsons is going to have a gigantic contract coming up. And everybody's saying, like, they can't do it. They got to make a decision somewhere. One of these guys, it's maybe why they were hoping for Trey Lance, why they haven't re-signed Dak. Well, the Niners are going to do it. Because the Niners aren't, I mean, again, unless Purdy is a disaster of a season, Purdy's not going anywhere. So the Niners are going to be paying the $30 million wide receiver, the highest paid, or one of them, whatever Bosa is now, defensive player in the league, and your $55 to $60 million quarterback. The Niners are going to be doing it. So it will be interesting to see what happens with the rest of the roster here. And this draft class seems to look pretty good, so that's a positive sign so far. But it's going to be really interesting now what happens with the rest of this roster. Are they going to be even more top heavy? Can they do anything with Trent? Are they going to have to start making decisions in other places? We said it looks like Debo, but now Greenlaw and Hufanga, I mean, those guys probably aren't coming back. Probably not coming back. We'll see what happens with the two corners. I always thought it was going to be one of them. Probably is going to have to be. So we'll see where that goes. But should the Niners have done this? If you think he's your number one receiver with the way the market is in today's NFL, yeah, 100%. Because if you're going to pay that quarterback all that money, I mean, things didn't look super smooth in the preseason. So I think you're going to want that receiver out there.
It looked damn awful. So, yeah. And I also think it's interesting, again, that Rossini's reporting what she reported, Schefter's reporting what he reported, right? That's the 49ers being like, listen, we didn't cave. Brandon Aiyuk and his camp caved. We didn't cave.
Right.
It was Aiyuk and his camp. And if, whether it's right or not, I would assume that that's probably pretty accurate, because we had heard even at the beginning of August that they had upped their offer to him. We never got details, but we had heard the offer has been upped. And so I would assume that is probably fairly accurate. But again, glad to have this behind us. I would imagine he will play week 1. I would imagine Ronnie Bell will no longer be on the roster
anymore. Sorry, Ronnie Bell.
And maybe that's in order to and we can touch on it briefly. The 49ers also signed Terrace Marshall, who was a second-round pick from the Carolina Panthers in 2021, a guy that had been linked to the 49ers, 6'4", 210 pounds, kind of a blazer. To me, this is replacing Danny Gray with Terrace Marshall, but Terrace Marshall is a guy that, while he doesn't have a massive track record of success in the NFL, has at least seen the field in the NFL and has stats to show for it. And so, again, just another eye towards maybe this becomes a more pass-happy offense when you bring in guys like Brandon Aiyuk and Terrace Marshall and Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing and, You still have Debo, and you have CMC, and you have, one of the better receiving tight ends in the NFL. Like this offense, as long as Trent Williams does sign, and as long as the offensive line can hold up, I see no reason why this offense can't be as good or better than it was last season.
Yeah, Trent's the big cog, so we'll see what happens there. Man, this was crazy. Me coming on as angry as I've been in a long time and breaking the news kind of when it's happening. That's, going through the range of emotions live while you're doing this. And, in the past, we could just edit the show. I guess we still could before the podcast comes out. But, I don't think so. Yeah, I think it's kind of good to kind of just go through the range of emotions.
For sure. Oh, absolutely. And again, when we talk about pissing contests, Brandon Aiyuk's agent quote tweeted Schefter's report about it being on the table since August 10th and said, that's factually inaccurate, but the check still cashes. So again,
wow.
Each side's like, no, I won the pissing contest.
My God.
No, I won the pissing contest.
But you know what?
Either way, the pissing contest is over. And I'm glad.
This is what I think. And again, I could be completely wrong. This is just me reading the situation. Aiyuk wants to play for the 49ers. He wants to play for Kyle Shanahan. He wants to play for John Lynch. He wants to play with these teammates, right? Yeah. This other stuff that's going on is above Lynch and Shanahan. I really don't think they're involved in it in the sense that Kyle makes most of the calls. He's the head coach. John Lynch is the face. He's the VP. But when it comes to the dollars, those guys don't deal with that. They don't deal with the dollars and cents in the year that the contracts. They don't deal with that stuff. So with this happening and this stuff, I doubt John Lynch is on the phone to Adam Schefter or whoever Redfield was done to be like, well, I just want you to know. I don't think John Lynch gives a shit. I think John Lynch wants his team to be good on the field. So wherever that's happening, a lot of people will tweet me at me and be like, John Lynch. I don't think any of this has anything to do with John Lynch. John Lynch has said, like, I'm an impatient guy. I want to get this stuff done. The contract stuff in this type of thing, the leaks and everything else, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think Lynch should have anything to do with it. Yeah, and I'm not. You can name your own names for what you have, where you think that is. I do not think Lynch and Shanahan have anything to do with that whatsoever. And if there is still bad blood and chirping going on, again, I think it's one of those things like, think about where you work. If in your office, if you really love your coworkers and you have a great relationship, and whatever the president of the company or the corporate part of that piece, you're like, fuck those guys. You know what I mean? Yeah. Maybe it's, that sort of thing. So whatever. Yeah. I can't believe there's that back and forth already. Like, just can we just not have nice things?
It doesn't matter.
Oh my God. Well, the next thing now we have to obsess about is Trent Williams. So we'll see how that goes. But next week, Brian, we get to talk about a real game.
Yeah, we do.
We've got a lot of fun stuff coming out. We're going to try to get Baldy back on, Brian Baldinger, in the next couple of weeks, hopefully, with Odyssey. So that'll be a lot of fun. And we're going to try to get somebody who covers the Jets next week to help us talk about this Jets game. Hopefully somebody from WFAN.
Yeah. And cool. Then also, if we can, I know you and I had talked about it, but would love to get a couple friends of the show on and do a little bit of a season predictions episode, if you will.
100%.
A lot of things in the work.
We'll be doing that too a lot. This season, if you've been listening or you're a new listener or whatever, we have a lot of guests on, and we also do a lot of cross, with different pods and that sort of thing. So we're going to be doing that too. We have a lot of friends that do this, and it's not competition with us. It's all same team, and we like to have people on and talk Niners with a bunch of different podcasts and YouTube guys. I do also want to say thanks to Chubby's for sending over. George Kittle's got a new collection for Chubby's with shorts and T-shirts. Go to Chubby's Shorts. Just Google it, go to that website, and you can get the George Kittle collection. There's some pretty cool stuff there as well for that. So, it's over.
It's over.
Go have a drink.
Have a drink, and then also, once you're done with that drink, realize Trent Williams still isn't signed and start fretting all over again.
Yeah, I'm still kind of annoyed, but all right, Brian, I'm Al.
Later.